Apparently I'm too live to go live. Anyhow, let me get back to it. So this is session number 2. I got interrupted. It looks like the feed was no good. I don't know why, because I'm about 5 feet from the modem. So, but what I'm going to do is sit by the window for you guys. Just so we're even closer to the modem. Our little Christmas decorations. That right there is Kingsway. I'm in Vancouver. Anyhow, so let me get back to it. Set the phone down a little bit. Okie dokie. So I was just getting into it. This is session number 2. Now we got a little bit better connection. I've been moving around just so you guys don't get disconnected again. Again, I am the director, managing director for Budzilla Dispensary Clinic Co-op, located at 2267 Kingsway in Vancouver, Canada. So I'm going to continue on from where I last disconnected. What I was talking about was a little bit of people are coming into the store these days. They're very concerned and they're wondering what's going to happen with Budzilla and what's going to happen with the beer stores, how this impacts us. Oh, and another thing too, I'm working alone right now, so if I need to, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, if a customer comes in, I'm going to sell some weed live to you right on Facebook to the customer, so you see what it's like. There's no shame here. We have no problems, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a little story. Not my last customer, not the customer before that, but the third last customer was a police officer that came in this morning. Now, you all might be shocked, but a lot of the work that we do is post-traumatic stress injuries recovery. We have PTSD group sessions in our lounge, which we offer for free, and to members of the service, and that includes first responders of any type. We do trauma-based PTSD to recover from it, and one of the things we do is we help police officers, any kinds of first responders, so paramedics, firefighters. Matter of fact, I won't name exactly what his position, but a high leadership positions in the Vancouver Fire Department are consumers. And also there's active members of the police departments that surround our city and that are in our city. So you have Vancouver police officers that actually do smoke weed. We know they're police officers and they support us wholly. So this isn't like 1942 where we're at war with the whole community that's been brainwashed. At this point, actually, the point of me saying that is that the will of the people is there. Now let me give you an example of who your typical cannabis smoker is. I get everyone from people that are as young as 19 all the way up to 99, and by that I'm serious. For example, my mother, who's a non-cannabis smoker, has never smoked cannabis in her life, is part of the board of directors. She's 85 years old. So this isn't like, again, the will of the people isn't in our favor. We're tired of pretending, we're tired of adapting. We've had an infrastructure built in British Columbia for over 40 years now, and this isn't a federal-based approach, which is strong-arming your competition. This is a very organic, a very from the ground up, you learn by trial and error type business, and it's a constant struggle because we are not typically accepted in most communities, and so we have to do a lot of community relations. This is part of it as well. This is part me addressing the customers that keep asking me what's going to happen. This is part me telling the government where we stand. This is part me rallying dispensary owners and associations and related trades to act, because now is the time that we have discussed our contingency plans where we need to activate. And so this is all in all a rally cry, and also you knowing exactly where we stand, Budzilla, where I stand as the founder, and so that you guys get a better idea also of where you can, if you're in another province, take this. Just so you know, from start, Budzilla Dispensary Clinic Co-op has faced some serious challenges. After its inception in 2012, after 3 months of operation, we got raided by the Vancouver Police Department and also the RCMP. Reason being is that we tried to poke the federal bear, which is the health ministry, and we tried to get a license way back when there was no licenses for edible manufacturers, distributors. We tried to get that process going because that we didn't adhere to them telling us to stop selling cannabis. Ottawa saw it fit to send in the RCMP in coordination with the Vancouver Police Department to raid us and take all of our stuff. They took close to $30,000 in cash. They took all of our materials that we had. And funny thing is that 4 years later, now we're in 2017, December, I'm still in the Supreme Court of Canada doing a challenge, which is hopefully going to absolve us from all charges, but those are serious criminal charges that we have been fighting, and as you can imagine, that takes a lot of capital in order to afford lawyers to do that, even 4 years later, having not be able to resolve the situation. So we're not afraid of challenges. We're not afraid of adversity. We started off hitting the ground running, and we haven't stopped since. The City of Vancouver has had implemented some bylaws. Well, actually, I'm going too far. So after we got raided in 2012, there was a severe community backlash towards the Vancouver Police Department. What happened exactly is their Facebook page got flooded, their emails got flooded. The community said that's enough, you're raiding these people for no reason. We have an excellent reputation. We started off as manufacturers, edible manufacturers for other dispensaries. So, there was so much of an impact that Vancouver Police Department on Twitter had to release unofficial dispensary rules. This is way before the bylaws, and because of the backlash that they got, they had to release comment. You know, everything was getting flooded, their Twitter, everything. So they tried to, at the same time as releasing these unofficial dispensary rules, demonize us, and they tried to claim that we were marketing towards children, quite simply because we had a drawing of a cannabis leaf that was not, I'm assuming, professional enough to look like it was not marketed towards children. Fine, that's our bad, whatever. That being said, we have since elected to try to get a business license. We were refused from even being able to apply for a business license. By that I mean that the City of Vancouver accused us of breaking the dispensary bylaws. Okay, let me back up a little bit more. So then after the unofficial dispensary rules, this is when there was a massive cry from dispensary owners to actually get some types of regulation. We've been fighting for this for years so that we can actually get a permit. So we will do everything we can to be socially accepted, right? Regardless of if on a federal level it's illegal. So we're doing community inclusion activities and whatnot, and this is one of them. So the bylaws came into play. After that, we had to fight our way through even being able to apply for bylaw, because the City of Vancouver already had a bone to pick with us. So they refused us our application to apply for a business license in the City of Vancouver. And so we had to go to the Board of Variance, which is a provincial four-judge court that is able to supersede the city's decision should the city not respect its own policies. We did that. We had a 4-0 unanimous vote, and so that means we won in our favor, and we also were able to proceed with our business application. So adversity, again, we're not afraid of. We welcome challenges, for it makes us better. And also, just to give you a bit of an idea of where we stand, in that we will not be pushed around. Okay, those days are over. There's been a lot of suffering and a lot of pain incurred by cannabis people, all the way from being arrested, being taken, to some people being endangered physically, all the way to some people losing their livelihoods, their families. So there's a lot of real pain and damage that has been done by the federal government's ignorance, and we have a stance that we don't even need for them to regulate us because the infrastructure is already there. So let me move on a little bit and come back more towards the topic now that I've established a position. So we were talking about the beer stores. Again, I'm not sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if this is provincial government or the unions themselves that are asking to see, well, trying to encourage the public to have a discourse in their favor for them to be able to sell cannabis in liquor stores. Now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the point is I'm hearing these ads, people are hearing these ads, they're scaring people, and they want to know what's going on. So, coming back to that, one of the reasons why dispensaries exist is because, quite simply, there's a need. What does that mean exactly? Well, a lot of the work that we do is substance abuse and recovery. Very often, we have patients that are recovering addicts and alcoholics. More specifically, alcoholics. Now, my first point would be, how are you supposed to sell a product that is non-addictive, that is used to treat addiction, with a product that addicts you? You see right there that it's setting itself up for failure. Quite simply, it's not logical. For the same reason that a pharmacy wouldn't be able to sell cannabis is the same reason that a beer store can't sell cannabis. First of all, you'll never have the knowledge, the selection, and more importantly, the competition that you have if you're allowing a beer store to sell some weed. I got a customer. Check this out. We're going to do this live. Now, a lot of people are saying you're doing something that's very legal, but clearly here in BC is far different. And so let me just do this right in front of you so you see it going down. Now, this is a real customer. I'm not going to put his face in the live portion. All I'm going to do is put you guys on the counter so you see how it's done.
Hi, could I get 2 grams of Viper?
Sure. Viper, sativa strain. Is it 2?
2, yeah.
Now, just so everyone knows, this is a regular customer. You guys are probably wondering why I didn't ID him. Comes here every day. And it really is as simple as that. Here you go. Done. Thank you. Really as simple as that. So, you can't tell me that all that needs a whole governmental regulation, because, again, this is a non-addictive substance which causes no harm. You know what's funny is that there's not one attributable death that has been attributed to cannabis use, because it's quite simply impossible. And so, why over-regulate businesses to death? Okay, that's one of the topics I'll get into a little bit later on. What would it mean for a corporate, crown-owned corporation to sell cannabis that already sells liquor? Would mean that, for one, you would be ignoring and trying to eliminate a whole industry that has been built in British Columbia, an infrastructure that exists from seed to sale, which has been going on without problems except for interference from the government. Okay? What that means is basically they're trying to corner a monopoly on a product that is extremely profitable. We didn't start out in this business for the money, okay? I'll explain it just like I explained it to the police officer this morning. We as dispensary owners set out on a course to do good, okay? To try and help people. Basically what that means is we have family and friends that come to us and say, hey, I heard that this could work, does it? And could we try? And usually that's at the end of their line where doctors have abandoned them. For example, I have one patient that had psoriasis for 8 years, tried everything medically possible, was not able to get rid of her psoriasis. At this point, she was starting to be septic. She was deemed to die from a skin condition. We tried cannabis oil, we treated it aggressively. She now is psoriasis free. Okay, she had serious problems with her skin, and now she's free from that. Now, the government tried to do everything it could, but medically speaking and chemically speaking, nothing could be done. Because she had the mind to give cannabis a chance, she was able to survive. So, basically, would you rather be medically dead, or would you rather be breaking the law and be alive? Now, that's not a situation that dispensaries or dispensary owners and or customers want to be placed in, clearly, obviously. That's a position that the government has placed us in. And especially, this is why I'm not coming off as some guy with a suit and tie and preaching at you that, you should be acting and seen in a certain way, because that's not me. This is a very freedom-oriented kind of thing. And it has a lot to do with our sovereignty, really. First, as Vancouverites, second, as British Columbians, and third, as Canadians. What sovereignty means is our way of living, our traditions, need to be respected. That's who our people are. So, let me get back to a little bit on how it wouldn't work because of the ways that beer stores could potentially operate. Now, you can't tell me that you can compete just on knowledge itself when a guy has been working, being threatened by all levels of government, yet still persevering, learning, experimenting, trial and error. You can't tell me that that guy can be replaced by a store clerk that has no idea about cannabis. It's quite simply isn't that simple. Yes, a lot of people refer to it as weed, and it does grow like weed. But it's those subtleties and those variables that people need to have knowledge with. And that kind of knowledge is not easily acquired. Competition. if you have cannabis be sold by beer stores, there are literally hundreds of thousands of growers that will be excluded. There's hundreds of thousands of growers in British Columbia. Again, we have a full infrastructure. These people, there's entire towns dependent on cannabis. It's not a secret. These towns, the mayors encourage cannabis use and growing. These mayors encourage the use of dispensaries and the existing infrastructures in British Columbia. So you can't tell me that you can replace all of that with being able to sell only a certain specific amount of cannabis. Now, that being said, this cannabis, where would it come from? It would come from the federal government that irradiates its cannabis. Okay, you heard me right. They actually nuke your weed before selling it to you. Okay, that's what they do to medical patients as it stands right now. I have another show, The Smoke Show, which we've proven that the claims from the government on their own product as it stands are false. We've had 27 samples tested. Out of the 27 samples tested, they were all false. And this is going to medical patients. So do you really think they're not going to cut corners with recreational? That being said, dispensaries, dispensary owners, and the infrastructure that exists are not waiting. We haven't been waiting for years. If regulation comes along, sure, we can deal with it. We welcome it. However, we're not going to be regulated out of business. We know exactly the process of elimination that the federal government has tried to instill through local governments from start in trying to eliminate its competition. That being said, their demand is being interrupted by us quite simply because we have that infrastructure already. Oh, here's another customer. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. That being said, here's another point that I wanted to share with you guys. A beer store can check IDs just as much as we can. If somebody is clearly not over the age of 19 years old, which is clearly shown everywhere in our dispensary, what stops us from IDing people? Nothing. We do when we feel the need to. Quite frankly, I mean, it's not because you're a beer store or a government outlet that it's any different. So basically, these beer store or liquor store commercials telling people that they want to sell weed is absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you guys are with me on this, again, let's organize. Now, let me go back to the weed that the government could potentially supply to these beer stores. What's going to happen to all those people that grow already? Does the government care? What's going to happen with the customer? Will they have variety? Will the customers be deceived? Again, I don't know if you guys know right now, but Monsanto, super evil company, is actually has approved pesticides that can be used on cannabis. Now again, medical patients are smoking this cannabis. The way that the federal government approved its pesticide use was more so for agricultural food products. Those food products were not meant to be consumed via combustible. Okay? So those chemicals were not approved to be smoked. Basically, you're smoking poison. And not only that, this leads me to all the recalls. These government-approved corporations have had multiple recalls. They've lied to their patient base already by stating that they were organic when they weren't, and they've lied on several thousands of others topics that we've actually proven and exposed on the Smoke Show. So do you really want this cannabis to be sold to you when you have no other choices in a beer store? Think about how fast beer store lines are. You usually say hello to the beer store clerk. Hi, how are you? Give your money, and you're gone. There's no discussion about the quality or perhaps the grower or how the product was grown or how it's distributed fairly. None of that. Again, so you're trading in almost an automated process for years and years and years of knowledge. And that, quite frankly, doesn't work because we're already educated. A lot of people need that knowledge. They need that interaction so that they know exactly what they're doing when they're doing it. Now, you're going to throw alcohol in that mix? It just doesn't work. It makes no sense. We've always advocated for non-alcohol use. Anyhow, as I was saying in one of our previous comments, is that we as an infrastructure are not waiting. We design the future. The federal government here then abides by and should understand and respect our culture. Because we've created this culture. They're trying to join our culture. That didn't work, so now they're trying to eliminate our culture. The only problem, however, for the federal government and for provincial governments and for liquor stores and beer stores is that we as dispensaries and cannabis users have the support from local governments, unions, and the public. This is why the federal government now has to deal with the problem. There is literally, again, hundreds of thousands of people that depend upon cannabis as an industry. People that make food, people that there's such a wide variety of different professions that cannabis is intertwined with. For example, massage industry, the pet industry. There's medication for pets. There's the soap industry. There's detox. There's all kinds of peripherals, and also, for example, bongs bong shops that are touched by cannabis. So, for the federal government, provincial government, and or the beer stores to start thinking that they can all of a sudden magically and not respect that fact is completely misaligned with the public's will, which is another reason why this idea is doomed to fail. Now, I talked to you guys about a police officer that I served this morning. This police officer is an active, on-duty police officer with the Vancouver Police Department. I've seen his badge. Remember, I got raided by these very people. However, things have changed. We're 4 years later now. This guy himself was asking me, what do you think is going to happen? And I told him pretty much what I'm telling you guys this. And he told me that there's no way that he was going to buy from a government outlet or a liquor store himself. Now, if this is coming from the person that is supposed to be enforcing your own laws, think about how much of a disaster that's going to be. It's doomed to fail from the beginning. Sure, the government wants to dominate. They want tax revenue and they want to make that money. But you know what? Truth be told is they're faced with a problem that they don't even know how to deal with. That doesn't mean, though, that we don't want to work together to try and design a future together. Some regulation is reasonable. We need regulation in order to have standardized dosage. We need to do this safely so that there in the future is no mistakes and or health issues. And if you're going to mix alcohol with cannabis, I can guarantee you that you're going to get mistakes and health issues. It's common sense. Let me reiterate that there's no difference between a beer store technically checking people's identifications and dispensaries doing the same. The only difference between a dispensary and a beer store is that the beer store is government run and they are going to strong arm their competition, put them in jail, literally take their lives away if their competition doesn't adhere to their rules. You see how it's a bit different in how we're trying to be inclusive and they're trying to be exclusive. Again, another reason why this whole idea is doomed to fail. The adversity that dispensaries have faced to this day, we're talking 40 years of hardship, should be respected. This infrastructure was built out of need. It wasn't built as a toy. It wasn't built as a project, as a single corporation. Again, entire towns and cities depend upon cannabis to exist. So we're talking old wood mill cities where, for example, the wood mill caught fire. Now everybody's growing weed. Nice. They don't have to abandon their towns, make it a ghost town. So now we're at a point where everybody wants a piece of the action, but most of the players that have the power don't know how. What I would suggest is for the government to actually try to listen to the will of the people. There's a demand from the people for this to go through properly. If it doesn't, the black market is going to thrive. Now, I'm not against the black market. Technically, I am the black market. However, I want to see a future where everyone is able to participate. From mom and pop operations, people that are not dressed like lawyers, people that just want to help people and want to live a good life, can go on and do that. Is that possible? Yes, it is. How is that possible? Budzilla Dispensary Clinic Co-op, in association with Cannabis Growers Association and a few other associations that we won't name for now, have lobbied the local, provincial, and federal government in order to have our infrastructure be included and respected. Now, you're going to say, is that for real? Is that even possible? Let me show you where the proof lies. Clearly, we don't do things the same that we do in Ontario or Nova Scotia, for example, here. I would love for other provinces to take our lead and to utilize our experiences, our hardships, in order to be able to flourish in the way that they would like to. Not necessarily the way that the government wants them to. Okay? You need not be forced into something in order to participate in it. Clearly. I mean, let's look at it this way. If you're going to be exclusive, then the only path that you're going to achieve is to exclude yourselves. I'm talking to the federal government. This is why there needs to be some cooperation on all levels. On December 10th, I'll be attending a Christmas party with a Liberal sitting minister. His name is Don Davies. He's our representative here for Kingsway, the District of Kingsway. The District of Kensington South. And this is just another one of the ways that we want to be inclusive, and we want to educate, and we want to create a system where everybody is able to exist, where there's a free and fair market. Now, I just got the invite to the Christmas party there, so I'm not fully sure who he is or what the story is. I just got that this morning. But this is my reaction to all these attempts to try and confuse the consumer, because truthfully, I don't think the dispensaries are going to go anywhere. There's a reason why we have, for one, self-regulated ourselves, and for two, why we are participating in the regulation process. For example, the bylaw system that they have in Vancouver. We want to bring this industry forward in the way that it should be. If you look at the way that we envision it, we see explosive growth. But if you look at the way that the government has always envisioned it, they want to contain and to encapsulate. Again, another reason why it's doomed to fail, because where I'm coming from, this is a culture. I live, breathe, eat, sleep, weed. Have been for years. My dad has, my grandpa has, and it's been like that forever. So anyhow, these are my feelings on what's going on. I just wanted to reassure people that we have no plans, and we will fight to our death any regulation that is meant to exclude us. And we will continue on existing despite any adversity that's brought our way. We have contingency plans, and we will proceed. So as I was saying earlier on with the associations, now's the time to activate on those contingency plans. And now's the time to start putting out those ads like we discussed, both in all media. And this is where you're going to start seeing dispensaries flourish, because as a community as a whole, we need to bring this issue forward, and there's no way that we'll be able to do this without full interaction from all of the people involved. Okay? This is the consumer, the retailers, and government. Thank you all for taking the time to join me. I really appreciate your guys' time. Please try to share the message. I know this has been a very complex live session, so please share the session with some dispensary owners or other people that you think it might help. And at the end of the day, thank you for staying strong. Thank you for supporting us, because without you, there is no us. And we will always try to do the right thing by people. Okay, this is an industry that was created out of trying to help people, to comfort people, to be sympathetic towards their needs. So again, we're not going to change. We're not going anywhere. And thank you so much, everyone, for your support. I appreciate you. I love you. And again, without you, there is no us. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day, guys. Thank you.